Because they finally realized that brothers and sisters' rhetoric was inconsistent with their behavior. And they realized that brothers and sisters' rhetoric could be altered by the consequences. By the consequences. So when at first they were taking us real serious. We'll burn this place down. And they found out they could wipe that brother out by asking him how much money you want. How much y'all want for the Black Studies program? How many airline tickets y'all want? And so that's strictly a Skinnerian thing. And they carried it much farther. And out of that came Skinner articulated that it is possible to delude people in believing that they have the essence of life, namely, and that's where he wrote his book, Beyond Freedom and Dignity, which you should read. Because what Skinner talked about is that everything black, he talked about blacks in that, he wrote about blacks in that book. And he talked about in there that beyond freedom and dignity, that you can give people freedom and dignity, a concept of freedom and dignity, and still control them. Still control them. And that's why he said beyond freedom and dignity. Give black folks freedom and dignity. They keep saying they want freedom, they want dignity. Give it to them and still control them. And so, why you cannot use traditional white techniques, because it assumes an inherent equality between blacks and whites. So let's go into some of the, and I always use, to show you clearly how mental side operates. I've used so many examples that many of you know. I'm going to try to think of some, I'm going to try to give some different ones now. Some I see right now. The top basketball teams right now in this country, DePaul, UCLA and all, Alabama, if you look at them, Alabama, UCLA, and DePaul, the first 7 or 8 starters on those teams are black. Black boys. Yet these are white schools, just like University of Washington is. White schools. The question must be asked, because this is mental side. Since 8 black boys out of 10 on the basketball team at a white school, what are the white boys doing? At a white school, what are the white boys doing? Tell me, we don't have 80% of the medical school student body. We don't have 80% of the law school student body. Why should we have 80% of the basketball team? That's mental side. They bring black students into these schools for many reasons. And they use them as you use cannon fodder and spit them out the same way. And that becomes mental side. They take our best brains, our particularly best brains, and through the mental side process. For example, University of Chicago accepted, one student in medical school last year, and they stated that they had accepted, one black student in a University of Chicago medical school this last year, and they stated that they had accepted 10. We took those 10 students, names and all, and guess what we found? That Harvard, the University of Chicago, University of California, all of them had accepted the same 10 students. All of them accepted the same damn 10 students, knowing that those 10 students can't go everywhere. And so when you go up in a child, no, but see, Dr. Wright, since you're an alumni of this medical school, we took in 10 students. See, here's our letter. And you took those 10 and sent them to Harvard. So send me your 10. And look down in the name, same name. They accepted. And so that type of gentleman, that type of stuff is what I'm talking about in terms of mental side. Now, about the, I always use the example of Notre Dame about the basketball, and then to get us into what y'all like is the prettiest part about this. I saw Notre Dame play basketball once, and 5 black boys was on the team. You all know about basketball, fast breaks and all. And they were losing the game, so they did what Washington will not do. They put all the 5s out at one time. That's why Washington keeps losing. So Notre Dame's losing, and announcer is pro-Irish, and finally they put the 5 brothers in, they start winning. The brothers go down, and they go down to the other team, shoot a basket, 2 points down, shoot a basket. Notre Dame team grabs the ball, these 5 brothers start down the street, down the court, and the announcer went crazy. Here come the Irish, here come the Irish, here come the Irish. 5 black boys. 5 black boys. And that's indicative of how they got us. They have us identified in so many ways, in so many segments in the black community, that we're divided so many ways that the whole concept of unity, it keeps eluding us. And so I'm going to say a couple of things that you all should. I rarely say slogans. But here's some slogans you should remember. I mean, here's some things you should remember all the time. If you know better, you should do better. It's very simple about mental side. I mean, you yourself have to understand what's happening to you. And you can't say, I've got free will. I have free will because, see, I can go pick my classes. I can do this, I can do that. That's not free will. You're programmed. You don't have a certain number of classes to pick from anyway. You don't have to take no classes. You don't go out and make no class schedules. You can't pick the time those classes meet. I guarantee that. And that's why so many brothers and sisters are in trouble. This morning, these students had me up at 6 o'clock, after going to bed at 4. And I'm walking across the campus this morning at 8, 8 o'clock, 8:30. I think we met one brother, and I started running and said, what the hell are you doing out here? I mean, these white students running over us. And I'm looking around brothers and sisters, nobody on the campus. I mean, and I'm saying, what the hell is a black student? I know somebody's got 8 o'clock class. All y'all can't have 12 o'clock classes. I mean, the other thing is, about the problem. Let me first talk about the problem. The problem is very simple in terms of counteracting menticide. We need to develop, and if you read Cruz, that I did last night, we need to develop a social theory. That's what we need, a black social theory. A black social theory. We need to develop a black social theory because of an old African proverb. Social theory means it dictates the behavior and the direction of life. Everybody have their social theory. Every white group has their social theory. Italians have one social theory. Jews have another one. Irish have another. And that's what makes them Italian, Jews, and Irish. Is their social theory. You can't have, and we're around here believing we can have Jewish social theory, an Islam social theory, a Christian social theory. You can't do that. That's where the division comes. And so we must have a black social theory because the African proverb states, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. See, you don't know where you're going, take any road. And that's what we're doing. We don't know where the hell we're going, so we take any road. Just run down the street. And like if you don't know your way out of here, Malcolm forbid, just take any route. Like me, I don't know why the hell to get back to that hotel over there, somewhere on there. So if you all don't tell me, I don't get a cab. I can start walking in any direction and got just a little chance of stumbling into it. In fact, Reverend Jackson, they put him around the country, Reverend Jesse Jackson, these signs on alcoholism. And this one sign he has, we might crawl with freedom. We might crawl, run, walk, but we will not stumble to freedom. I'm convinced that unless we do this, that's the very way we're going to get there, stumble into it. I mean, there ain't no other way. It's no other way we go. You just can't look for luck and stuff like this. You have to build a social theory. So you have to know where you're going. Some other things come because on Saturday I was dealing with the Black United Front.
Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't African, the talk show that shows without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America stuffed in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, Buck Wylam, and tonight we're going to have a show that deals with the massive wellness deficit in the African American community. Joining us tonight will be Jay Williams and Bridget Wilborn, and they're nutritionalists, and they're going to share some information on how the so-called African American community can make their lives a lot better. Joining me as always is my co-host Rick Moon, but also we have a special treat for you tonight. We decided to bring in a female co-host because we figured two males were a little bit too biased, so we're bringing in a female co-host tonight, and her name is Nisi Lachelle. So Nisi, welcome, and how are you doing?
Doing great. How's everybody doing?
Great. Rick, what's going on, brother?
And how's everybody doing tonight? And also hello to all the people out there listening tonight.
The person who has the noise going on in the background, can you kill it, please? Thank you. Bobby Wright. The last couple of weeks we've been playing Bobby Wright, his masterpiece called Menticide. Menticide is very important to the so-called African American community because if you was listening to Bobby Wright when he was talking about the Notre Dame basketball team, And when he said, it's 5 black boys on the court, and when they running down the court, the announcer says, here comes the Irish, here comes the Irish. This is indicative of how the so-called African American thinks. The African American thinks he's everything but himself. And so that's why we bring guests like this on the air, and this is why we have content like we have on African Americans Ain't African radio. Because the way the African American is thinking got us all twisted. So, without any further ado, we want to bring in Jason William and Bridget Wilborn. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing okay.
We're doing great. How are you?
Oh, all is well. I know you guys got some information that you can share with the African American community on how they can get their health together, not just physical health, but also mental, spiritual, soul health together. So we're waiting for those tidbits that you drop. We want to talk about the massive wellness deficit in the community. So can you guys just get into that about the massive wellness? What do you guys see that's going on in the community that can be changed?
Well, there's much that can be changed, starting with the mindset. The mindset is all wrong to begin with, and our whole idea of health itself has holes and gaps in it. Like, for instance, we have an illusion about expense. We have an illusion about taking control of our own wellness, or even having access to these things. And that's a big problem. And if you already go into it mentally imbalanced with how you'll perceive, like, for instance, a good example, the same person that says that it's too much to buy a multivitamin for, say, $40 for a 1-month supply or even a 2-month supply of a multivitamin, this same person will have no problem putting down 5 times that amount for a pair of Air Jordan shoes. See?
Yes.
And that right there we have to change our priorities. We're not prioritizing as a collective, or as if we think like individuals, more or less. We don't think as a collective. And we feel as if these things are things we don't deserve, when in fact, a lot of what we call wellness began in what they're now calling Africa to begin with, including traditional Chinese medicine. It began there, more or less. A lot of these things have common origin, but the chalk lines that connect everything are purposely erased so that people don't know. And to make a long... go ahead, I'm sorry.
So why is it that we think like that? Why is it that we always think that whatever we get, we have to get it from somebody else? How come our thinking isn't along the lines that you have all these immigrants coming over here, Chinese, Europeans, Africans? How come our thinking isn't to the effect like they're coming over here getting your stuff while telling you that their stuff is better for you while you're watching yourself drop like flies? What does that mean?
Well, collectively, we've been browbeaten as a people to begin with, especially in the United States, mentally browbeaten, to the point where we've been reduced to consumers rather than producers. And if we look economically at us as a group, we consume more than any other ethnic group on the planet. We consume almost $1 trillion. That's more than anybody else. Nobody else consumes that much. So we feel like we have to get everything from everyone else. And yet, when we look at our cultural aspects and things that we've created and things that we do, first, what we create is spoken of in a derisive manner. It's ridiculed, and then it's commodified, and then it's stolen. And then it's made to look as if we never invented it in the first place. And after generation of this programming, and then even the school system, the way it's set up, it's programmed so that we have a very small piece of the puzzle. It's like our history didn't begin until we were brought over here in these, quote, slave ships, unquote. And that's where our history begins, in most history books. And that should exemplify the fact that we've never really, in any meaningful way, controlled our story. Other people tell our stories, even down to our name. What we call ourselves are not names that we ourselves have invented. Like African American is a textbook example of that. If you look into the definition of African, you would know that that's not something that we should even call ourselves, nor would we call ourselves black, nor should we call ourselves Negro. These are names that come from languages other than what we've spoken. These are names that others decided we should have. And so when we keep giving over our power, there will be more than enough people that will be willing to take it. And all of that stuff goes hand in hand in terms of creating this wellness deficit. It creates a deficit where we don't even have the confidence to see ourselves as being in a position of masters of our own destiny. We want to always be victims, and that's something that we have to work around. I know what DJS hasn't done, because we're talking programming, generations of programming, which has created what can basically be perceived as nothing more than a slave mind state. We have to get away from the slave mind state.
But yeah, Jason, but come on, man. I mean, if we're supposed to be humans, you have rats that have babies that when those babies come out, they are programmed innately or however it's done not to eat the decon, not to eat the rat poisons. What is keeping us? I mean, because we cannot ignore what's happening right in front of our eyes. Why do we always take that victim role? Why do we always something happen where nothing could get done? What is it that we always take that role?
Well, if we look at it from this perspective, our values, basically we've adopted values that are not our own to begin with. Where we come from, originally, going back many generations, it was more like a village. It was an entire village. In other words, we all worked together, we lived of, for, and by each other. That village these days is quite a toxic one, and it's basically every man for himself. So our core values have been inserted where there previously was a set system that worked in harmony with nature. Now we've adopted mores and cultural customs which are not part of our original nature. And basically we're outside of ourselves and we're constantly looking in. And if you take a good look at everyone else, you'll see everyone else prosper off of things that were created by, quote, African Americans, like the third rail, the refrigerator, the stove, shoes, horseshoes, the pencil sharpener, the traffic light, the third rail. I probably just said that. But the point that I'm making is we're looking at others prosper from even the filament in the light bulb. We're looking at others prosper at things that, quote, African Americans had invented. And
Oh man, don't tell me that dropped.
No. My phone gave out. No, it didn't give out. It just lost signal.
Everybody got hung up.
Everybody? Oh, okay. So,
What?
whoa. It's something happened.
Well, lately I've been having some that's been going on here. I've noticed that's been going on. Every time I try to put on a nice show, something happens. But it's cool. It's okay. Everybody's gonna start coming back on in a minute. But
Okay.
I just can't believe everybody just got hung up.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
No, yeah. Wow.
Well,
That's that energy.
Well, nah, it was like me and my co-host Rick Moon was talking about earlier. This is why you gotta have your own everything.
Right.
down
Yes.
down to the electricity. And
They big brother is listening.
well, yeah, but we not producing,
We're
you
not.
know, and since we're not producing, this kind of stuff can happen.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, brothers, we just like to sit back and like it's cool to watch the game and all that. But this is what happens when you don't have your own stuff.
Absolutely.
And we seem to be comfortable with it. So, which is here he is back. Jason, I'm sorry, we just had that technical difficulty. Could you please continue, please?
Sure. All I was saying was that as a people collectively, we have to see ourselves the same way that others see themselves. This isn't about, oh well, we have to stop letting other people decide how we should act as a group. And the thing about it is, it has to start with our children. The education system, if you look at the word education, it really has nothing to do with teaching anyone. You have to look at the words. You have to look at everything. You have to become an incisive critic about just about everything. You have to, because we did not design the system that they currently use for education. It's modeled after Prussia in the early 19th century. It was designed to further advance the Industrial Revolution. It is a far outdated model of education. And what's happening now is they've even commodified education to the point where, a good example of that, they're building jails based on the 3rd and 5th grade aptitude levels of children, especially African American children. They're looking at them and studying whether or not they pass or fail. If they fail, they're going to build more jails. So do you honestly think that there is an incentive for African American children, quote unquote, to advance through the system? This is just an example of some of the things that are actually in place now. Things like that. So as a group of people, if we were to say no and take charge of our educational system, that's part. I know it's a huge, huge thing. The wellness deficit is not a simple fix. It's not. It's mental, it's physical, it's spiritual, it's also cultural, it's communal. It's a great deal of things that we as a people have to do. But first, we have to know how to do and what to do. And it has to start from the youth. It has to start from early. Because if we don't plant the seed early, there'll be no plant later. There'll be no foundation. There'll be no tree. So by teaching our children how to eat properly at an early age, we won't sow the most obvious seed of destruction. That's the easiest thing that we can do something about, is what we put on our plate. If we look in our neighborhoods, there are more food deserts in, quote, African American neighborhoods than any other neighborhoods in the nation.
Now, Jason, when you say food desert, could you explain what a food desert is?
A food desert is a place where there's no supermarket that's within either walkable or drivable distance. Like, for instance, you could have a small town, or you could have like an urban area where there's only one supermarket, and let's just say in New York City, for 10 blocks. And if that supermarket closes, then they'll have to go another 10 blocks, so a total of 20 blocks before they can get to another supermarket. Or, for instance, let's use Alabama as an example. If there's like a lower income area in, say, Montgomery, and there's a Food Lion, and that's the only Food Lion in the whole area, then you'd have to go to the more affluent areas, like, say, to the north part of town or wherever the most affluent part of Montgomery is. If there's no workable supermarket in that area, that's a food desert.
Area code 256-849-2227. African Americans Ain't African. We're here with Jay Williams and Bridget Wilborn, and we're talking about the massive wellness deficit. If you have any questions or comments or anything that you'd like to add, please give us a call. We can also be reached on African Americans Ain't Africa in the Facebook chat room, and you can also visit our website at africanamericansaintafrican.org. Nisi, you had a question?
Yeah, Jay, I wanted to know, earlier you spoke about the third-party entity. I wanted to have the third-party entity.
The third-party entity?
Yes. I wanted to get a little bit of elaboration on that.
Oh, on a third-party entity. Like, in other words, let's just put it this way. Racism is not about what people think it is. At the end of the day, it's about business. It's about money. At the end of the day, that's the only color that matters. It's green. You have massive entities that, in fact, they're all loosely controlled. I'll give you an example of third-party entities. These are people that get together and they decide how much a box of Fruit Loops is going to cost. It's technically an illegal practice, but they do it. It's called collusion. Like, for instance, Kroger, Publix, and Walmart and Target, representatives from all these places sit down in an undisclosed area, and they all decide how much they're going to sell that Tide detergent for. And basically, that's why their prices are all within 20 cents of each other. You have multiple entities like this that work to keep things going the way they are. Like, for instance, with skinheads, people that make leather boots and camouflage outfits, they make a lot of money off of that. So they work to keep these kind of things going. Just like, for instance, with New Era Cap Company, that's another example. When the Bloods and Crips were killing each other in Los Angeles because they wore different colors, what did they do? They came out with caps. They came out with those caps specifically for that reason, like LA Dodger caps done red for Bloods and blue for Crips. They capitalized off of our misery. And it's an that's an example of a third-party entity. It's these people that basically turn the strings. Actually, they turn the wheels and pull the strings and keep this stuff going so that we collectively don't come together, because economically speaking, it's not in their best interests for people to come together because they'd have nothing to talk about and nothing to do. You see, it's just like with pharmaceutical companies. They purposely attack health food stores on purpose. They do that because they can't make money selling their drugs if people can heal themselves for pennies on a dollar. They would rather you buy Lipitor for $1,100 a month instead of buying red yeast rice for a fraction of that cost that does the same thing and has the same compound, but without life-threatening side effects that can shut off your liver in about 5 years. So that's an example of third-party entities, and they're pulling the strings in every facet of life. These third-party entities are private. They're private people. They privately own. Not only do they own the banks, they own all the television stations, the radio stations, the media, and what they do is they keep this kind of stuff stirring. They keep this kind of stuff going. And a lot of these companies, like, for instance, Sears and Roebuck, their first catalog was a slave catalog. The Bank of America, that I'm quite sure everybody has an account with them, they also had a slave catalog. That's how a lot of these people got into business. So what they have to do is they have to cover all these tracks so you don't know that. See? That's what I mean by third-party entity. It's people that pull strings from behind the scenes and keep this kind of madness going so that people can come together and see their way out. So they'll come up with ideas and things to keep people distracted. Like, for instance, reality television in its many, many myriad forms. They create these things to keep you distracted. So then, rather than you, say, going out and raising that girl to become the first president of her own bank, she'll instead want to act like Mimi or one of the Real Housewives of Atlanta and make a fool out of herself. It's an old tactic, and it's designed to distract and dissuade our children from doing higher things. I've got nothing against LeBron James. I've got nothing against Kobe Bryant. But for every Kobe Bryant, there's 300 kids that think that they can do the same thing. And so they'll sacrifice the higher ideal so that they can go out and try to emulate these guys who are by no span of the imagination heroes. Those are not heroes as far as I'm concerned. Now, a Jesse Washington, that's a hero. Now, say a Dory Miller, that's a hero. Jesse Washington was a lynching victim. The stuff that these people had to endure just so that we can be standing here having this forum and this conversation, you see. And I know those are bad examples, but there are other examples of people. Of course there's Medgar Evers. Of course there's Malcolm X. There are dozens and dozens of people who were deemed uppity, and so they were hung or they were put to death because their IQ was a little too high. They were just a little too intelligent. So there were a lot of people that sacrificed their lives for our greater good so that we can sit here and have this forum and do this. And so the thing about it is, these same people that do this fear what we can do when we come together, which is why they came up with loitering laws. That's why they come up with a lot of these things, so that we don't come together and realize our power and realize what's really organized against us that is bigger than we can possibly imagine. And there's a lot of money at stake. This is really, at the end of the day, about power, knowledge, and control. When you have the knowledge, you have the power, and you will have the control. So if you can be able to go to a health food store and get stuff to heal yourself, why would they want to put that in a poor neighborhood and teach the poor how to eat well so that they can have the real wealth, which is health? Because if you have your vitality and your power, you can think higher things and better things, and ultimately do better things when you know better things to do. So the thing about it is, they have to keep everybody separated. And even with the races, we have to realize that we're a bunch of mutts anyway. We have to get away from all of that foolishness, because first of all, we're not the ones that came up with prejudice. We didn't come up with the whites only and blacks only. They did that. Knowing that, we have to stay focused in our own truth, and we have to come together. We have to. And sure, that brother over there with 10,000 tattoos and you don't really understand a word that he's saying, that doesn't matter. If he's willing to make that change for us to come together and make sure that we get a health food store in an urban neighborhood that's deemed low income, that's what matters, is that we all work together for the greater good. It doesn't matter where we come from or what our background is, because they have us looking down on each other in the most ridiculous fashion. And like, for instance, I came from the projects. I was born and raised in the projects, and I lived on the government cheese, and I'm quite sure there's quite a number of people who did. But, this is the kind of stuff we have to overcome. And the thing about it is, these other entities, these principalities, these spiritual wickedness, this spiritual wickedness that works up in high places, every possible high place that you can imagine, doesn't want that to happen. See? That's what, I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely, it did.
And I have a question for Jason. Would like him to elaborate on the pineal gland, and you just mentioned about our spirituality, how we can take control of that, but how our environment is actually affecting our ability to be able to find out what our strength is as a culture, as in our black community.
Okay. The pineal gland, they claim that it just controls the circadian rhythms of the body, rather than just admit that they really don't know what they're talking about. And if they do, and they just keep that information from us. But the bottom line is this. The pineal gland is the master gland in the body. It in actuality controls the pituitary gland and tells the pituitary gland to produce MSH, or melanocyte-stimulating hormone. The pineal gland is the seat of the crown chakra, which through error and through much misinformation, people say that is for the 7th chakra, but in actuality that is the 9th chakra. See? That is the 9th chakra. And the pineal gland is what controls the higher senses, the psychometry, the intuition, the telepathy, and the clairvoyance. And all of the higher senses, that actually is filtered through the pineal gland. Things that calcify the pineal gland are, say, fluoridated water. Fluoride water calcifies the pineal gland. Eating the wrong food deadens the pineal gland as well. Eating stuff in McDonald's, which basically, you might as well read Psalms 23 before you even take a bite when you go in that place. But the bottom line is, your pineal gland also controls your circadian rhythms for your sleep and also for your physical appearance of aging. And here are some examples of how sensitive it is. When we sleep at night, we're supposed to sleep in utter darkness, because when we don't, the melatonin, which is a sleep hormone and also an anti-aging antioxidant, its production gets cut off with even so much as a pinhole's worth of light. See? And there are other things that damage the pineal gland. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You were going to say something?
No, you can go ahead and finish.
Oh, okay. Cell phones to the head are damaging to the pineal gland, and so is Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and WiMAX, which is even worse than Wi-Fi. WiMAX, in case you don't know, stands for Worldwide Interoperability Microwave Access System. It's one of the things they use for 4G networks, which is why that stuff works everywhere, including the Grand Canyon. You could be in the middle of the Gobi Desert and you could probably get a signal. So you have these toxic frequencies that are basically pushing themselves into every corner of the planet Earth now. So, environmentally speaking, you have to be drinking the right kind of water because the environment itself is becoming toxic, very toxic. They're building power lines well within 1 mile of actual residential areas. They're talking about building another nuclear power plant in, say, it's going to be in eastern Georgia. It's going to be down by the Brunswick area, but it's going to be in a predominantly black area. And there's going to be, of course, runoff from waste matter that's going to be in the water. That stuff will kill, and it's toxic, but they're still building it.
Area code 256-849-2227. African Americans ain't African. We're talking about the wellness deficit and what's going on in the African American community. Could you mute your phone, please? The one who has the noise in the back. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's all right.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Oh. Also, dietarily, there's certain things that we need to eat. We need to eat melaninated foods, or in other words, black foods. And I don't mean like collard greens and ham hocks or anything of that nature. I mean literally black foods, like black rice, black beans. And these compounds are black. These foods are black because of compounds in them called paranthocyanidins. Paranthocyanidins are technically the closest thing in nature to melanin that plants can do. When plants get exposed to potentially harmful ultraviolet radiation, it doesn't produce chlorophyll because the plants already have that. Chlorophyll acts like a different compound in the body. Paranthocyanidins are produced, and these are dark pigments in the plant that protect the nutrients inside the plant. And foods that are rich in paranthocyanidins are things like blackberries, blueberries, black currants, things like this. These are things that strengthen the pineal gland. Tahitian noni juice helps to decalcify the pineal gland. And also, nootropics are things that advance the brain or things that enhance mental activity, like Ethereum black and Ethereum gold. Specifically, Ethereum gold helps the pineal gland. And so does an amino acid that comes from green tea called L-theanine, which helps to produce more GABA. And by producing more GABA, this produces more alpha wavelengths in the brain, which is one of the reasons why Zen Buddhist monks have consumed green tea since the 11th century. See? So these are some ideas about how to help the pineal gland. The environment plays a huge role because melanin can become toxic. People don't realize that. Melanin is a capacitor. It is an electromagnetic capacitor. It stores energy indefinitely and it releases it in different ways. So the pineal gland actually governs all of this activity. It doesn't just regulate sleep patterns. And the thing about it is your connection to the higher realms can't happen without your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is the master gland of the body, governs the others, like, for instance, the pituitary, the thyroid, the parathyroid, the spleen. Contrary to popular belief, the spleen is extremely important in the body. It serves a very metaphysical purpose as well as a physical purpose. It's not just there for decoration, as Western medical science will have you think.
So, Jason, a lot of people are having sleep problems. And so can you kind of let us know about a lot of people taking the melatonin. Is that a good product to help us sleep?
Melatonin is most effective for people over the age of 62 years of age. If you're under the age of 62, you should probably not use that melatonin. Sometimes when we don't produce enough melatonin, we need its precursor, which is L-tryptophan. A lot of us are becoming serotonin deficient, and that's a result of tryptophan being removed from the diet. You know, for 20 years... Yes, go ahead.
Ain't tryptophan illegal in the United States?
That actually is no longer true. It's been commercially available since 2001. Here's the interesting story about that. Tryptophan caused, or at least what they did, here's how sneaky they are. A company called Showa Denko Double K in Japan in 1989 sought to increase production of tryptophan so that they can get a higher profit. So what they did to the bacteria that made the tryptophan, they genetically modified it. And as a result, it not only produced more tryptophan at a shorter time at a higher rate, it also produced a toxic byproduct called peak X. That peak X killed 37 people because it caused a neurological disorder called EMS. And the interesting thing about it is after it not only killed 37 people and sent 1,500 people to the hospital, it was banned. Tryptophan was banned after 1989. But then, 4 years later, the pharmaceutical industry applied for a patent through the federal government for the same L-tryptophan. That same L-tryptophan real L-tryptophan cured the disease that was caused by what they said was the tryptophan, but in actuality, it was a byproduct of genetically modified organisms trying to produce tryptophan. That's what killed the people. And real tryptophan healed those people. They kept that information from the public. And it would be another 8 years before tryptophan would be allowed to be sold in health food stores again. And they started with small places, like the larger chains, like, say, Vitamin Shop and GNC, only recently started carrying tryptophan again, after about 2012. But smaller health food stores, like the one that I'm in, had actually had that since 2001 and was legally available since 2001. They first filtered it through practitioners, like naturopaths, and then the health food stores were able to get it. And the reason why is because at the same time the tryptophan was taken off of the market for, quote, public safety, unquote, that's when Prozac was introduced to the mainstream public, also called fluoxetine hydrochloride. It's an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And that's just one of many that they've introduced. In the interim, with tryptophan's absence, none of them could be produced without side effects. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Rick, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because before the show, you were talking about how African Americans don't think of the here and now, and think of the here and now, and they don't think generationally. Could you kind of elaborate on what you mean with that statement?
Yes, I'd love to. The main reason for, say, like, I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Let's look at the Japanese. Our Japanese brothers were bombed into complete surrender in 1945. And to date, they are the only nation on earth that has ever suffered a nuclear attack. They had 2 nuclear bombs dropped on them, which killed 500,000 people. They were reduced to rubble, the country was. They were basically made to pay back money, and they were humiliated. in front of the entire world. They worked together like ants. They sacrificed their individual desires, whatever they were, for the greater good of their nation. And in less than 20 years, they became a dominant economic power by the mid-60s. By the early 1970s, they had the number one economy in the world. And how did they do it? They worked together, thinking of the long-term goal rather than thinking of their own selfish individual needs. Us, as a collective, back in the beginning, like for instance with Black Wall Street, see, and places like, say, Rosewood, these were thriving African-American communities that were burned down over lies. What's not told is that 6 months after Black Wall Street was burned down, it was built back, and it was actually twice as big and better than ever. But the point I'm making is in this day, yeah, they don't tell anybody about that. We only hear that it got burned down, but we don't hear that they actually came back. See, that's the power that we have as a collective. And we, in this day and time, we only think of short-term success and not long-term success. Another example I'd like to use, Stevie Wonder versus, say, Lil Flip. This is a rapper. Now, he'll have like 1 or 2 records, and they'll be good, and he'll make money. But then after a while, his career is going to dry up. Why is that? Sure, he's a rapper. 2, everybody loves his music. 3, yeah, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But here's the problem. Can he play an instrument? Can he read or write music? No. Stevie Wonder has been out there for over 50 years, and he recently did new music. That's what I mean by long-term success. We have to plant the seed that we can constantly go back into the garden when the season is right and get the crop and get the fruit. Collectively as a people, this is what we have to do for the greater good of our children. We have to show them the example, or we're going to continue to be made an example by the entire world. We have to show them how it's done, or it's going to keep getting done to us. We have
also,
priorities in the wrong place.
could you talk a little bit about the drug companies and the food?
I don't know what that is, but this is the 3rd time it's done that. Rick, can you keep the phone to your ear so you guys can hear each other talk? You guys don't have the phones to your ears and you're talking over each other.
Oh no, that's my phone is acting up, man. It's been acting up ever since the show started.
Okay, then hang it up then, because it's killing the show.
All right, I'll just sit out the rest because it's.
Try to do something. We were terrorized into not doing it. We were, besides Native Americans, whether we realize it or not, we ourselves are victims of terrorism. That's what we have to understand. We have to start looking at the reality that everybody else wants to ignore. The Ku Klux Klan is one of the oldest terrorist organizations of the world, in the world, and we were victims of them. Of course, the Native Americans were victims of genocide and terrorism. I mean, people don't want to look at things that way, but we behave like we're still a captured people, because the generations of tortures and murders and all of those things, that stuff can affect you. It goes into the genes psychologically, whether we realize it or not. And it's stuff that we have to face, because if we do not face it, we're not going to have the progress that we would love to have. Because if we can't see the simple things, like coming together to support each other's businesses, which is something that Orthodox Jews understand very well. You see, when you look at any other group, they sacrifice for the greater good, and then they all prosper. We have to do that. We don't do that. In fact, you have a lot of these wealthy black celebrities, and a lot of them, I made it, now you got to get yours. How can you if we don't know how to do it? If you don't show us the way, or if you don't open the door, that kind of stuff. A lot of those celebrities, and I'm not saying that they're all like that, because there's a lot of them that work for the greater good of our people, but a lot of them don't.
Yeah, but don't you think we're giving the celebrities a little bit too much credit, because we're the only ones that look at our celebrities as somebody who has money, when in other cultures their celebrities are just basically like the people. I don't think the celebrities have enough money or know-how. They're puppets, most of them. And
I agree.
What they've been showing the past 50 years, 60 years have shown that they don't have a clue. They're doing what they do and just to keep a job. But we had a question from D down in South Florida.
Okay.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
So this question, I guess, could be for either Jason or Bree, in terms of nutrition and detoxification. Jason, you had mentioned earlier on in the show that our communities, as far as nutrition is concerned, is like a desert, because the grocery stores are further away from areas where people can get to. What, in your opinion, either you or Bree could answer this question, can we do to reverse that thought process that we currently have as a people?
I think we have to first go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think we first have to get back and realize that our society have to stop allowing the doctors to just to get everybody so accustomed to just having a quick fix. We have not decided or have taken our health in our own hands. I mean, we want a quick fix. We want a pill instead of, receiving, doctors say you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol. The first thing they want to do is put us on a pill. And we have become so accustomed to not changing our thought pattern or not taking our health in our hands and being able to study and being able to say, you know what, the cure most time is in the cupboard. And we have forgotten that a long time ago when we were growing up, we very rarely went to a doctor. And it was going back out to the dandelions. It was going back and using spices and just really trying to find out, is there another cure? Is there a way that I can take a lifestyle change? A lot of us don't want to make that lifestyle change. We are just totally sublime to these celebrities, and everybody just wants to get fit instead of being healthy. And so a part of our healthiness has to start again with, realizing what our pineal gland is, and then being able to say, can I detoxify my body? And we take on makeup, we put on makeup, we want to go out and eat fast food. We want a quick fix and not realize that even though I may look good on the outside, what am I doing to my body internally? So there are a lot of natural things that we can do for ourselves, getting back to drinking pure water, alkaline water, educating ourselves. When we go to the doctor may give us there's a range when we take blood tests. So we have to just take for whatever, they normally will experience with white mice because they want to see how the Caucasian may respond. But they put us all in this same measure. They measure us all the same, but we're totally different. And for us to go in as black women, black men, and you are 150 pounds or whatever, and they say you're obese, they're putting us all in this same measure, this same category, and we really have to realize and stop being so vain. What are we putting in our bodies? Can I make these changes in my health? Like I said, you can do detox things like, magnesium. A lot of times when people are really upset and they're uptight and they have palpitations going on, hormones, there's magnesium that will calm the body. When you have a fever, when your heart is just palpitating, you can use cayenne pepper. So there's so many different things that we can do to help ourselves and to educate ourselves instead of just getting that pill. And that's what we want. We want a pill to look good. We want a pill to calm down at night. We want a pill to, lift us up. You want to help us with our serotonin. Then we want the melatonin. And so then we're so emotionally stressed.
This is really pissing me off.
So in our communities, we don't have a lot of health food stores. Actually, I've never really seen a health food store that sustained itself within our community. How would people, is there a way that people can get these herbs or get medicinal remedies for themselves in the immediate environment?
Dee from South Florida, could you repeat that question again, please?
I'm sorry, I think I'm having some problems with my phone here. The question was, being that there are not a huge number of health food stores or medicinal remedy stores in our communities, no grocery stores, like Jason was saying earlier, was far in between. And so all you have is this nutricide type of stores out there. If there are people who cannot afford to get to a health food store to be able to buy the herbs, the medicines that would help alleviate some of their diseases, are there plants or variations of things that within the community, within your walking distance, that you could actually learn about? Are there herbs or plants that may grow wild or something that can help out in the community?
As a matter of fact, there is. And one of the things that you can look into in your local area is a CSA, or community-sponsored agriculture. That's an idea. That's one thing that you can do. And like, for instance, stinging nettle grows all over the country, and it grows on every roadside. Stinging nettle is one of the best things for allergies and inflammation. It is perfect for this time of year when the pollen count gets ridiculous. There are also local urban gardens. There are a lot of gardeners that are realizing that we're going to have to grow our own food, and so they're actually coming into the, quote, lower income areas, and they're starting urban gardens, and they're producing a lot of produce. There's one such garden right out here in Atlanta. So it's actually taking root in a great many of the metropolitan areas. People are starting to realize that we're going to have to grow our own food. It's getting to that point that we're going to have to do that ourselves. And if in so much if it were possible, you could actually go out and actually open up your own store eventually. I know that might sound something and crazy, but these are the kind of things that we're going to have to do. We have to start our own businesses rather than looking for somebody else to do it. It's a good example because we have to stop saying what we can't afford, because success comes in cans and failure comes in cans. We got to stop with that mindset altogether. We have to realize that there's dozens of options. With the internet, you could find your local CSA or community-sponsored agriculture, and you can become a member, and they'll actually drop it off at a place that's actually easy to get to for most people. You see, it's that kind of stuff. We can start growing our own gardens in our houses if we have houses. And there are many, many options.
So you're saying that the community sponsored agricultural system.
Say again?
I would like to interject on the herbs that are available. I mean, until we are able to do that, our cure is in our cupboards. Our cure is in our cupboards. You know, you have cinnamon that you can help, that you can use, that you can take daily, that would help your blood sugar level. You have cumin that's very that has a medicinal usage. You have turmeric. You have sage that also helps with the blood sugar level. So we have to go back, and when we say go, eat soul food, we have to eat the food that's good for our soul, the food that will alkaline our bodies. Getting back and drinking, water with lemon in it, and getting away from the sugars, the different sugars, and going back and eating all the things that God has created. So, they had this crave about the wheat thing, and now we're finding out that wheat inflames your body, So we're going to have to just start to educate ourselves, and sometimes it's not what I eat, it's what you're taking out of your diet, taking the white rice, taking even brown rice has arsenic in it. So it's all about moderation and information. And also, the stress that we have, getting back into your kitchen instead of going, to the different fast food restaurants. We have to get back in the kitchen and let the cure be in our kitchen. How we're cooking coconut, virgin olive, coconut butter, coconut oil, is very good to use. Olive oil should be drizzled over your food, and you shouldn't fry with olive oil because it cannot handle the heat. Grapeseed oil is good to cook in. So when we change our oils, some people are still doing vegetable oil, and then they're thinking that canola oil is good for you. So it's all about educating ourselves. No, we can't. A lot of places might not have an herb shop, but we can start with the internet. We can start to find out why information is taking us out.
Area code 256-849-2227, African Americans Ain't African Radio. We can also be reached at AfricanAmericans.org. Please go to the website and donate. Miss Wilborn just gave a perfect idea, and this is what I mean about it. And I wanted to ask you about this, Jay, when we talk about mental athletes. And here's just this is just an example. Bridget just said coconut butter. Now, I know she said it inadvertently, but coconut butter. Isn't that something as a group of people, as a group of so-called intelligent human beings, isn't that something that a group like ourselves could look into and invest and come up with coconut butter that would revolutionize the butter market? And I wanted to give you that question in the context of mental athletes versus physical athletes.
Yeah. The thing about us as a people, we have to start raising mental athletes rather than physical athletes. Like, again, nothing against LeBron James, nothing against Kobe Bryant, but all they ever want to do in the educational system is breed physical athletes to hold a basketball. We have to start developing mental athletes, people that invent things. We were the original inventors. We invented things. And it's the kind of children that we have to develop in order to turn a lot of that around. And I also wanted to go back to something earlier about canola oil. Canola oil is a very bad idea. In case people don't know, canola oil is a really bad idea. And here's why. Canola oil, all of it, is genetically modified. All of it. If they didn't genetically modify canola oil, they couldn't sell it.
It's called the rapeseed oil.
Yeah, the
rapeseed plant. They rape all of the nutrients out of it.
It's actually part of the brassica family, or the broccoli and / mustard family. And it has a toxic compound in it called erucic acid. Erucic acid is deadly to humans. That's why for many decades they used it to lubricate factory machines in Canada. In fact, there's no such thing as a canola plant. You know that olive oil comes from olives. You know that coconut oil comes from coconut. But there is no canola plant. There's no such thing. The first three letters of canola comes from Canada. The O represents oil, and LA stands for low acid, which is what they had to do to it on a genetic level in order to market it, to sell it to people. So That's really a terrible, toxic oil, and you should not be using that. If you're using it, throw it away. The coconut butter idea is an excellent idea, and we need people to come up with innovative things. That's why we need mental athletes rather than physical athletes. People that know the solution and can see the bigger picture. We have to teach our children to see the bigger picture the way that we do. And what can happen is this forum can grow way beyond ourselves, and we can start breeding doers rather than talkers. And a lot of these athletes are talkers. They're paid large sums of money. They live extravagant lifestyles, and they really don't do anything productive. But a mental athlete plants a seed that many people can benefit from. We need more John Lee Loves. He's the guy that invented the pencil sharpener. We need more people like the man that invented the internet, who was from Nigeria, or another doctor from, I don't know, I'm not sure what their names are, but this man figured out the theory of relativity and wrote a $100 book that was released through Oxford University Press 12 years ago, and you didn't hear about it on the news. So they're walking around saying that there's no solution for the unified field theory, and this Nigerian mathematician figured it out. So we need more people like that. And we have to stop thinking in terms of what we can't do or what we don't have, and start thinking about what we do have and what we can do. Because we have access to cinnamon. We have access to all these things. And what we have to realize is these things are affordable.
Well,
you could pay. Say it again?
I said, I'm liking Bridget's idea of the coconut butter. That sounds good the longer I think about it.
Oh, coconut oil has so many different uses, from topical, to frying. I mean, we have to be honest, most people are not going to stop frying food. So what's an alternative? It actually tastes good. So you can also consume coconut oil. And also you can oil pull is what it's called. That's another way to detox your body. And what you do is get some extra virgin coconut oil, and you swish around in your mouth for at least 20 minutes. You probably have to start off with 5. And it has to be the first thing that you do in the morning, and it actually pulls out the toxins. And most diseases start in your mouth. So it actually, you can't, drink anything or eat anything. So that's the first thing that you have to do to be able to try to pull toxins out your body. You can also take activated charcoal. And essential oils are so prevalent, with helping with different diseases. So I think if we just kind of like arm ourselves and do your due diligence to help your health, and not, want to have the quick fix and taking all these pills with them having side effects. Now, our food is losing its nutrients, so of course we are going to have to supplement. But it's all about, everybody is different. And we have to stop getting on this trend thing of losing weight and being so hard on each other, and just be, And so I think if we can start, meditating and just having that still moment and getting the stress out, that we can just start saying, okay, I can get back into my kitchen and I can become healthier.
Nisi, you had a question?
Well, I was so, this is so interesting. I mean, I'm just in awe with everything that I'm hearing. I would really like to follow up. That's what I would like to do. I'd like to get web information or what have you, so that I can get some of these wonderful products, so that I can begin to use them and, spread the word, because we learn by doing, and when things work for us, we're kind of a stubborn people, but the best way, the old saying, each one teach one. So I'm very much interested in getting information and doing follow-up. That's what I'd like to do.
So
I have
go ahead.
Yes, we talked a lot about how to detox our internal system. Is there any way that we could actually detox our immediate environment, like our house, maybe our external part of our body, our skin? Is there a way that we can work to clear those areas up as well?
taking an Epsom salt is very vital for our bodies because it has some magnesium in there. You can take a detox bath twice, 2 or 3 times a week. One with sea salt. You can use sea salt. You can use baking soda. You can use volcano ash. And some of you could just mix it and get you some essential oils to help pull the toxins out of your body. And I've started using 3% peroxide. Peroxide has so many medicinal uses. So what I do is use peroxide to make my mouthwash. I use peroxide to clean my fruits and vegetables. I use peroxide to clean my meat, and it actually will tenderize the meat as well. But you'll be able to see the toxins like the meat. I think that's real neat. I also clean with it. I'll mix it with peroxide with some essential oil. So I think it's important too for all of us to, you have to detox your house and get all the different chemicals. That everything that smells good. I understand. I love the smell good thing. But when we keep, breathing it in, we make our environment toxic with all of the different cleaners. So, you can clean with vinegar. You can clean with baking soda. I like Miss Meyer. So there's just an abundance of things that you can do to detoxify your environment. And one thing you have to stop doing is that air freshener. Air freshener is horrible, So here we go. We want the outside to smell good, but what are we doing even in your house? What are you doing with all the different fragrances and stuff, and even, perfume that you put on your thyroid gland? Anything that touches your skin goes in your skin.
Right. And so that my concern is obviously with all the chemtrails that they're spraying in the skies these days, that stuff has got to be falling down. So my concern is how to cleanse myself to make sure that I'm getting rid of those chemicals, those toxins that are coming down before it actually penetrates my skin.
Are you talking about things like chemtrails and things that they're putting in the atmosphere as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you may want to consider something called N-acetylcysteine. N-acetylcysteine is a precursor of glutathione. Glutathione is a powerful antioxidant that helps the liver detoxify poisons. Other things that help the body detoxify, if you can't afford that, there's cilantro. Cilantro is a heavy metal chelator, and you can buy that for pennies on the dollar in any decent supermarket, preferably organic. That would be a good thing. Also, you may want to consider getting something like a water filter from a company called New Wave. They make a really good one. So you want to replace a lot of your faucets with filters so that you can filter out a lot of these toxins, because the water is really the foundation for all good health. And if you don't have clean water, then even with all that stuff you're going to use, you're going to be reabsorbing those poisons, even if you're detoxifying them out of the body. If you're using dirty water, it becomes counterproductive. So you want.
What about the toothpaste? Using toothpaste fluoride.
Toothpaste? I would avoid that, and here's why. Sodium monofluorophosphate was added into toothpaste in the 1960s. The original fluoride that was helpful for the body is calcium fluoride. That's the fluoride that occurs naturally in rock ores. And that's the only real form of fluoride that the body can recognize and use. Sodium monofluorophosphate is a byproduct of the aluminum industry, and they produced massive quantities of this byproduct, so they had to figure out what to do with it. So they stuck it in toothpaste. And for a small amount of time, they put it in the water. But what they didn't tell anybody was that in the last 12 years, municipal water supplies are switching to a more toxic form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a byproduct of fertilizer. And this first started in the municipalities of southern Florida cities. And now in many major metropolitan areas, they're starting to use this form of fluoride, which has no medicinal use, no confirmed medical, clerical evidence to support using it the way they're using it. It's a byproduct of fertilizer. And so they're adding more stuff to to the kitty.
Coming up to
So
go ahead.
it would be imperative at that point to detoxify the liver. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Detoxifying the liver is very important. As well as detoxing the outside, you definitely have to make sure that the forces on the inside of the body are doing their jobs. There's also milk thistle. Milk thistle is a phase 1 liver detoxifier. Broccoli, steamed broccoli releases sulforaphane compounds, diindolylmethane, and indole-3-carbinol. These are beneficial compounds which help the body detox toxic xenoestrogens from the body. Like, for instance, don't drink water out of plastic bottles. Don't microwave your food. When you microwave your food, you're cooking it from the inside out, and what it's doing is killing all of the enzymes or whatever life is in the food. When you drink plastic bottles, the plastic bottles have BPAs, or bisphenol A, which is a toxic xenoestrogen, which when you ingest it, it mimics estrogen. And what it does, it causes tumors and malforming growths to formulate, like fibroids. That's how that happens, is when the body has too much estrogen. Compounds like what's in broccoli, DIM, diindolylmethane, help the body to detox these high levels of toxins that can accumulate in the body. And all of that stuff starts to the liver. Your hormones, your estrogens, your testosterones, your neurotransmitters, they begin their life in the liver. Many people think that they begin in the brain, but they don't. They begin in the gut.
So when we're drinking water, what would you say, since most water is sold in plastic jugs or plastic bottles, would you suggest we boil our water or have it distilled water? What do you suggest?
That doesn't really work very well. Distilled water actually pulls minerals from the body. Distilled water should only be used by people that have wasting conditions. You'll hear conflicting opinions about that. But according to my research on that particular subject, distilled water is good for a very short amount of time. And also boiling water, even if it's like, say, tap water, that's going to do nothing to get rid of the other compounds, like gasoline byproducts that are in the water, which have a much higher boiling point than water does. Then you also have trivalent chromium, which has to burn in the thousands of degrees in order for you to boil that stuff out. So boiling it is not going to do anything to remove those toxic metals. What you need to do is filter that stuff out. That's the main thing. And also, you can get water in glass. There is a product, there's a company called Mountain Valley Spring Water Company. They're out of Arkansas. And they have 5-gallon jugs of glass water. And they're one of the only companies that are doing that. And also, the same company has a plastic that actually is not leaching xenoestrogens or other weird compounds into their water. When you look for the plastic bottle, make sure that it has a number 7 in the diamond. That's the only, like if you see, you know, like the recycle symbol on the bottom of the bottles, you know that symbol? Like the one that has a number 1, a number 2, a 5, a 6, or a 7. Only the number 7 bottles can be used over and over, like continuously. Your best bet, if you want to drink decent water, besides getting a good filter, you want to get water that is ozonated, triple filtered, and reverse osmosis water, stuff that's been purified. Not necessarily devoid of its nutrition, but it's something that is going to put something back in the body. Like, for instance, the Mountain Valley spring water I just talked about has a pH of about 8. It's a high pH water. It's an alkaline water. So this is a water that will actually put your body back to the state where it's supposed to be, because it has 774 parts per million of calcium. But it's calcium in a form that can be uptaken more efficiently into the body. It's not like a carbonate, which the body really has no use for. See? These are just examples of things that you can do. So
what about the alkaline drops? What about if they can't afford the different water systems? Alkaline drops are available.
Alkaline drops are good. They'll change the pH, but if the water's still bad, it's still not going to amount to much. You have to purify the water. You have to get those toxins out. Even if you purify it, at best, those are going to change the pH of this toxic water, but it isn't going to do anything to remove the byproducts from gasoline It's not going to do anything to change covalent chromium. It's not going to do anything to change those things. The bottom line is we're going to have to have clean water.
Rick, you want to say something about alkaline water? I guess not. Well, in closing, Jay and Bridget, in closing, what are some of the ways that we can get rid of some of these other than what you just said? Because when you were talking earlier about the spices and stuff, most Negroes just use salt and pepper and seasoning salt. They don't use the cumin and all the other things you're saying. What are some simpler ways that we can use, in closing, that we can close this wellness deficit that we find ourselves in?
I use a product by Bragg's called amino acid. And amino acid, it really just seasons your food real good. I mean, you don't even have to use any type of salt. And then I'll go to, get the natural herbs like cilantro. Dill is very good. I'm getting to make my own dressings, salad dressings. I'm getting away from all of the commercial type salad dressings. So there's so many, you got basil, you got dill, cilantro, you have sage. And if you use
also.
I'm sorry.
There's turmeric also. That's also
turmeric, yeah. Turmeric and cumin is very good, and it actually, it kind of heightens your taste buds when you go back to that, and we just don't, keep using salt. And a lot of people are doing sea salt, but what I've found out is that the Himalayan salt is even better than the sea salt, and that's another option you can use as well.
Hey, I had a question. What is red water?
I've never heard of red water. I really don't know.
Well, it was I saw a documentary by this female. I forget her name, but she talk about always put lemons in your water, because lemons are one of the few fruits that have negative electrons, and most fruits have positive electrons. And
so
she was talking about something called red water, RED.
No, that's
I've never heard of that one.
I've never heard that term before. That's interesting.
I get the lady's name. I forgot the lady's name, but I have it on CD. As a matter of fact, she was killed later on.
I would love to get that information. That sounds interesting. That sounds like something we should do.
Well, it's top.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll find the CD and I'll let Buck know, and he could pass it on to you.
Okay, great.
Well, it's the top of the hour, and it's time for another close. But I want to thank Jay and Bridget for joining us. And please, you guys got to come back, because we've had some technical difficulty tonight. But the information you gave was just right to the point, automatic, like Bridget when you said the brag seasoning. That's something that you can pick up before you pick up all of these spices and stuff that we love to have in our cabinets. So I want to thank both of you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Oh, glad to be here.
And please come back again, because this is the kind of information we need. We really don't know a lot, and talking about the mental athletes that we need to build, I think that you guys could be very instrumental in help building those type of people.
Okay.
All right, so this is African American Ain't African Radio. Thank all the listeners for joining us. We see all you guys on the Black Talk Radio Network checking us out, and all the people on the phone call listening to us. Sorry we didn't get a lot of questions in, but you saw that we had the technical difficulty with the phones. So join us next Thursday. We have another amazing show. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you next time.